hopefully we'll be talking a lot of Mindhunter moving forward too, because season 2 just dropped on Netflix, and 2 weeks ago now. And Mindhunter season 2, it felt a lot like other very popular shows, something like Mr. Robot or The Wire, where season 2 maybe wasn't as strong as season 1, but it felt like it was laying a lot of groundwork to expand the show moving forward, in my opinion.
Hmm.
How did you feel about Mindhunter season 2?
Yeah, so I've been catching up on the show recently, so season one's still very fresh in my mind. And what obviously stands out, as you kind of alluded to, is that season 2 is just much more of a crime procedural, especially in the back half once we really get into and focus on the Atlanta child murders. That's kind of the sole focus of Holden and Tench. And as for the future, I think there's a lot of options now. Whereas season 1 is a much more atmospheric, moody, cerebral show, very much influenced by Fincher. And Fincher's influence both stylistically and thematically still present in the season. He directs the beginning of the season. But I'm actually really curious, and I'm not really even sure where to go with it, but where the show chooses to actually go from here, assuming it does get renewed, just because they've been teasing the BTK killer through both seasons with really effective cold open scenes for the most part in Kansas. And that's despite the fact that he doesn't get caught for 25 more years.
Yeah. So,
and this show has mostly been trying to play with the facts. Obviously, Holden and Tench are composite characters based off this Douglas book, but this is an artistic license, but they've been sticking pretty closely to the real, the serial killers and whatnot. So are we going to age up and leave the period setting?
Yeah.
It seems like that's way down the line still. So I'm not really sure what happens next.
There has to be a time jump coming. I don't know if it's going to be season 3, only because even as this is going on, they're still introducing the idea of serial killers, right. The idea of these multiple.
That's what you're calling it now?
Yeah, right. So I think the season 3 you might start to see that becoming more established, more mainstream, this idea. But I think what I feel excited for, and you talked about all these different directions the show can go, is the first season was very focused on Jonathan Groff's Holton Ford, who is a very compelling character throughout the whole first season, seeing the rise and the creation of this unit, especially him teaming up with McCallany's Tench was really, really fun to watch. And they pulled Anna Torv's Wendy car in there, and it really started to hit the ground running. You got Kemper and the guy who plays him, Cameron Britton. Just mesmerizing every time he's on screen.
Best actor Emmy nomination. Fantastic.
Yeah, he's great. So there was all these elements, but it was really like, this is Ford's story. This now it feels a little bit more like the team story. Wendy gets a lot of time about her personal life and exploring who she is and her identity as a lesbian woman in this time when it's not really accepted to be out. You have Tench and all of the family drama going on with his son and his wife Nancy, and they really started to build these characters out, and even Greg a little bit in the interrogation scenes. You start to learn a little bit more about him and who he is as a character, and I imagine probably season 3 will explore that a little bit more. And by just the amount of sheer time that they could give, I mean, the only time you see Holton outside of the job, he's still working. He's being brought in to find out about these Atlanta child murders and then push that to the forefront of the FBI's consciousness, right, to kind of push his agenda forward. So other than some of the anxiety stuff with him, you don't really get much character growth with him. And I feel like they really wanted to build up these other characters to try to make the show a little bit more well-rounded, I guess. But I think because of that, the show didn't have the highs that the first season had. There was no moment like at the end of the first season, like with the Led Zeppelin song drop and Kemper and Ford having that showdown. But still, the interrogation scenes were really fascinating. You get the Manson moment, which I thought was really, really well done. And it kind of, I think, made you feel what a lot of the Manson family talked about, feeling like he had this control over you, especially with, you see the Tench totally turned off to the guy, but Ford is totally bought in
Right.
at a point. And then you also have the interrogation scene where I forgot the name of the killer, but where Wendy shares the story about her mentor and who's
Henley.
lesbian and kind of throws that guy off. And that guy was also really mesmerizing. Even Son of Sam was, David Berkowitz was a really fascinating. I think that's where the show excelled the most, was when they were actually face to face with these serial killers, how they were interacting.
Right. Did you recognize who plays Henley? The guy who assisted the Candyman guy?
I
Did you recognize him?
I know I'd seen him. I couldn't place it though.
He's the guy who plays young Ned Stark in the flashbacks, the Tower of Joy.
Yes.
No, now it ends. That guy.
Good
Actually,
catch.
I recognized who played Berkowitz despite the makeup, because I heard his voice. It's one of the kids from Project X, the party movie from 2012.
Oh,
The guy who is Costa. I fucking saw it and I looked it up.
wow.
I was really proud of myself.
That's a really good catch as well.
Yeah. I think what you hit on a lot there. And as you said, Holden, his kind of growing obsession with the ethos of killers and the psychology they're developing, his unit, and his growing fascination, genuine fascination with it throughout season 1 is really present. And then obviously you said the mental breakdown happens. And then he breaks up with Debbie, and that was a bit of a thin relationship in season 1, but I think it is effective for showing just how Ford kind of devolved, and he's so obsessed with his work. And that's why in season 1 there isn't anything else going on with Holden, because he's just so singular focused. And then when we have his team struggling with their personal lives, you see the show kind of showing the other side of its coin, where the serial killers are fantastic at compartmentalizing the evil, heinous shit they do. And then it's people studying them and talking to them that are having trouble with their own personal lives and bringing their work home and stuff like that. And ultimately, that's what's always been so great about the show, is it never shows the violence or any of the acts, despite the fact that it's really good at maintaining the dramatic tension, making you think like something might be coming. But there's no chase. There's no Hannibal Lecter shit, right? Mm-hmm. It's very, very methodical, very grounded, because it's all about psychology. Yep. And that's really hard to pull off. And I think one of the best scenes, one of the Fincher scenes, is when Tench and the local cop are talking to Kevin, one of the survivor from the BTK, and the way they frame that and build that up, and you think something bad's going to happen, but no, it's just a tense conversation the whole time. But they never show you that face, and they make you think you're going to see that face. That whole sequence is masterful.
Yeah.
And as you said, overall, just the serial killer scenes, when you build up to these interrogations, these conversations, is very, I think, showman-like. And Kemper, of course, stood out so much in season 1. That's probably why he came back this time around. I mean, he really was at the same prison as Manson, but it was just kind of cool to see Cameron Britton again, just because, I think the Kemper character is so fascinating, both in the show and I think honestly in real life. Like you can read the YouTube comments under like the real interviews they have of him on, and it's like everyone's like, man, what a waste of a 140 IQ. This guy is really bright. Too bad he's a fucking psychopath who's paranoid schizophrenic and all that. But I think the show is really great. And even I think I would agree. I think season 1's a bit stronger. Just I think overall the mood is more effective at like maintaining that atmosphere the show wants you to be in. And also I really like the rhythm we had in the early part of season 1, where Tension holding us on the road, talking to those cops, and kind of really learning and developing that psychology. But overall, and the characters, I like where all the characters are at the end of this season, even if Antorv's kind of sidelined by the finale. But yeah, there's a lot of potential for the future. So I really hope Netflix does in fact renew it, because they haven't been a fan of season 3 renewals as of late, and we know Mindhunter's not the cheapest show, so we hope the Fincher influence can keep this going.
I think this is a show that will definitely get picked up. Glow, I'm not so sure about, but this one I feel very confident in, mostly because you do have Fincher behind it, but I don't know. I guess I just can't foresee the show not coming back. Is where I'm at with it.
Right.
And Groff is a rising star, I feel like.
Oh, for sure. Part of me wonders if they had to change the scripts because Groff couldn't be on set as much.
Yeah,
he's in the show slightly less this time, but yeah, he's superb, and you kind of wonder how far they're going to take the Holden arc. Is he going to truly devolve into some obsessive guy who loses the plot as he has in spurts so far? That's probably more likely to me. I mean, obviously they tease that Tench's kid is a serial killer in the making, and we probably won't progress far enough to see that. Then again, if we time jump to BTK and Tench's kid's actually killing people too, who knows? But yeah, man, Groff's great. The whole cast is great.
Yeah, it's a really, really great show. Can't speak highly enough about it. So catch up if you haven't been tuned into it at all.